There we go. All right. Hi, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. Professor Sweeter here, and I have another video, hopefully to help you with crafting the perfect midterm speech. At this point, we've talked about the elements of an effective speech. We did a thesis workshop and an outline workshop, and now I want to take some time and talk to you a little bit about two often forgotten about parts of your midterm speech, and that's going to be the hook or the attention getter and the transitions. And I want to remind you that both parts are super duper important when it comes to your midterm speech, and they both, deserve a lot of attention. And there's something that I'll be looking for as I grade your work speeches. So let's take a minute and talk about what exactly I'm looking at. So first of all, I just want to show you. This is the template that I posted in Blackboard for you. And this goes over basically everything that you need to include in your speech. So as I scroll down, you see your specific purpose, you see your central idea, your thesis, you see your audience. Your audience, for the most part, is your classmates. And then below that, in introduction, you see attention getter. And that is what I'm referring to when I mention the hook. All right, it's the attention getter. It's what you're going to do to start your speech and start it off on a good foot and get people interested and excited for it. Scrolling down a little bit further, you also see this transition, and then it says preview your first main point. Now, as you're putting together your outlines for me, you do need to address that too. You do need to write something for your transition. And essentially that's something to help you move from, in this case, the introduction down to the first main point in the body of your speech, okay? You can't just leave it at preview your first main point. You do actually need to write out and plan a transition. And as I scroll down a little bit further, between A, first main point, and B, second main point, there you go again, transition, review, and preview. And same thing, this is a statement. It's like one statement bringing us from point A to point B. And you're going to see that throughout the entire speech. Okay. Finally, I'm going to bring you to the last part, the conclusion and memorable close. And we're going to touch on that a little bit today. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but it's relevant to hooks as well. So what I'd like to do is share with you a PowerPoint that I've put together to help you just get a better understanding of how to develop and implement effective hooks and transitions into your speeches. All right, so here it is for you, midterm speech workshop, engaging your audience, i.e. hooks, and effective transitions. First of all, you're going to engage the audience with a creative hook. And just like the picture there, the little fishies swimming, it does exactly that. It grabs people, it brings them in, and it makes them want to listen to you. Okay, essentially, why do we care about what you're talking about? kind of a scary question, huh? But really, why do we want to listen? Why is what you're saying important? Why should we give you our attention? And that's where a creative hook comes in. Now, hooks, I think a lot of times people get very intimidated by hooks, but I don't want you to be. They are far easier than you think they are. A couple more things about hooks. When you begin your speech, an effective speech does not begin with the phrase, hello, my name is, and today I'm going to talk to you about. For example, hi, my name is Professor Sweeter, and today I'm going to talk to you about hooks. It's effective. I get it. I mean, we have a clear understanding of who's speaking, what the topic is, but quite honestly, it's just not interesting. It falls flat every time. And so instead, what you're going to do is use a creative hook to bring people in. Now, how should you start your speech? There are several different ways that you can start your speech. 7, in fact. Let's take a look at them. First of all, ask a question. Ask a question about whatever your speech is on. If your speech is on cars, ask about cars. If your speech is on horses, ask about horses. But ask the audience a question. They don't have to answer it. It can be rhetorical. But asking a question puts everyone in the mindset like, hey, I should think about this. I should pay attention. Another thing that you can do is you can tell a story. You can give us information about something relevant to your speech. It's not necessarily, the main idea of your speech, but it's something that gives us some background. And I think a lot of times documentaries use this particular vehicle to help get people interested in whatever they're talking about. You can share a quote. There are tons and tons and tons of quotes out there. They're easy to find. You can Google them, or quite honestly, as you're looking at your sources, you're probably going to find a quote too. You can make a startling statement, something that surprises people, something that jumps out at them, and it's a good way to reel people in. I can give you an example where a couple of years ago, I had a student in my class who was on a crew team. And that's, those long skinny boats on the river, and they row as a pair in races. And she stood up in front of class, and for her speech, she began her speech by yelling at the top of her lungs. And what she was yelling was some of the commands that the person who is leading the team would yell. And so she jumped into that role that she personally had experience with. And that's how she started her speech. Very powerful. You can refer to your audience. Kind of think of it as like a stand-up comedian kind of thing. You start talking to them like they're really there, like they're really responding to you. So it's another option you can do. You can refer to an occasion. Is there an event? Is there an occasion, whether it's specific or more general, that has to do with the topic that you are speaking about? And you can refer to that. Or finally, you can use appropriate humor. Emphasis on appropriate, because we're in school, obviously we need to have a little bit of decorum, but use appropriate humor. You tell a joke, do something funny, and get people, to listen to your speech. Not too bad, huh? So 7 different ways that you can bring people into your speech. Let me give you an example. What if we were talking about a banana? Ready for it? What if we were talking about a banana? So here you go. The first step, ask a question. Have you ever really thought about a banana? What makes them so great anyways, huh? Your second option, tell a story. Do you know the story of Lorenzo Dow Baker? Well, you should, because it was his work that revolutionized the way you eat breakfast every day. In 1870, Baker created the Boston Fruit Company, the first company to import bananas to the United States. The third one is to share a quote. Groucho Marx famously said, "Time flies like an arrow, fruit flies like a banana." Number 4, make a startling statement. Bananas! I hope I didn't wake up my daughter. 5, refer to your audience. What did you have for breakfast today? How many of you had a banana today, huh? You can refer to an occasion. Running late, need to get out the door quickly, grab a banana. And then finally, you can use appropriate humor. Ah! All right, that was really planned out, guys. What can I say? I'm trying here, right? You get the idea, though. You get the idea. What you're trying to do is bring people into your speech, get them engaged, get them thinking about, like, what the hell is she doing? I realize some of the stuff is silly, and some of it's going to work well for your speech, and some of it's not going to work well for your speech. It's your job to play with it. All right. So here's my challenge to you. What I want you to do as you're planning your outlines these next few days, do this. Grab a piece of paper, number it 1 through 7, and come up with an example for each one of these. Okay. So again, if your speech is on living a healthy lifestyle, come up with a question, tell a story, share a quote, and do one of each of those for your particular topic on healthy lifestyle. If your speech is on tractor trailer driving, someone's doing a speech on that this year. It's really cool. Same thing, ask a question about it, tell a story about it, share a quote about it, but go through and actually physically write down an example that you could use for all 7 of these possible hooks that I've given you. Then when it comes time to writing your speech, you have 7 possibilities. You pick the one that fits best. You pick the one that you like best. There's your hook. And as a bonus, your second favorite one can also be your conclusion. Remember I said memorable conclusion? Something to think about. All right, so hooks are not scary. All right, I got to do something with this banana. Let's take a look at transitions. Whoops, that's what I exactly told you already. Effective transitions. Effective transitions are really important because they're going to bring your audience from point A to point B. It's going to be seamless. Now, my suggestion to you when you're doing your transitions is not to include the words you see at the bottom of your screen right now. Do not include words like first, next, last. Yes, they're directional. Yes, I understand that we all learned to do papers and to use those words in elementary school, but the reality is they're just not super sophisticated now. And so it's best to try to avoid that as much as possible. You're going to have a much more specific, or rather sophisticated speech if you do not use those words as often as you might normally do so. I would also encourage you not to use phrases like, now I'm going to tell you about, because it's really the same thing as first, next, last. It's not very sophisticated, and it doesn't show that you've put a lot of thought into your speeches. Okay. And then the last one on that list there, it says in conclusion, same thing. I know a lot of us write with that in their essays, but again, it's not a very sophisticated way of speaking. It's not a very sophisticated way of writing. And I think what you'll find too is it's not as interesting. So I'm going to encourage you in this case to really think about a sentence that transitions you from one idea to the next. And to do that, we actually have a really good example. And I'm going to show it to you right now so you can see exactly what is a good example for you. A couple weeks ago, I mentioned to you that I have given you two examples of informative and persuasive speeches, and they're in Blackboard. So I'm going to pull that up right now so you can take a look at it. All right. I realize this is a scary document. It's 12 pages long. There's a lot of meat to it. But what I do like about it is that it does have excellent transitions. I will say what I don't like about it is that it does have first, next, and last right there. Preview of main points, first, secondly, finally. No, don't do that, please. All right, but here you go. Let's look at some of those transitions. This first speech is talking to you about the Titanic, all right? And this is actually the thesis. So they're using their thesis statement as a transition from the introduction to the first point of information. And you can do that. That's actually a really good strategy. Let's scroll down a little bit. They're talking about the Titanic, largest, safest, most luxurious, beautiful accommodations, widely believed to be the safest ship ever. And this is where we're working up into the transition. Right here is a transition in this example, and it's a very good one. Now that I've discussed the Titanic itself, I now would like to discuss a tragedy that occurred on its maiden voyage, okay? It's a clear-cut, very specific transition, and I know immediately we've talked about the structure and the construction of the boat, and now we're going to talk about the tragedy, okay? It's a transition. It's not the best transition I've seen, but it is a very good one. All right, and now we see right here, B, the Titanic hit disaster head on when it ran into an iceberg 4 days after its departure. And that brings you into the second bit of information that this person's talking about. Let's scroll down a little bit. Uneventful maiden voyage, ship struck an iceberg, ship went down, some people were rescued, the majority of passengers perished. The ship eventually disappeared for life from sight. And again, now that I've learned about the history of the Titanic, I will discuss the movie that it was made about. So these are good examples for you of transitions. Try to avoid the word now. They don't really need to have it in this example. It's there, but you understand, okay? If you're still stuck on how to effectively do a transition, I'm going to bring you back to my PowerPoint for a second. I want you to take a look at something, okay? The last slide of this PowerPoint, and I'm going to go ahead and post this for you too when I post this video. This is a game that normally I would play in class with you. And, for whatever reason, either we didn't have a chance to do it or because we're in an online format, you don't get that opportunity this time around. But this is a game I would play. The game is called Connect the Dots. And the idea behind it is that you are taking two words and you're going to tell a story that connects the two words convincingly. So if you are struggling and you're trying to figure out a good transition, you can use this technique to help you practice connecting your ideas together. I'll show you how to do it. First of all, I'm going to open up a new page for you so you can see it. And when I clicked that link, it brought me to this page, random word generator. Okay, and this is just something I'm using as an example for you right now. As I scroll down, it gives me this random generator list, and I can pick two words, generate them, and then start talking about the words eventual and harpoon and connect those two ideas together. Wait, let me think about it for a second. Eventual and harpoon. This is not what I was expecting. I was hoping for two nouns. Oh, well. Let's see. Yikes. It's tough. It's really tough. And sometimes it comes down to really thinking about it. I think what I'd like to start by talking to you guys about is, right now it's tough. It's hard. It's cold outside. We're supposed to get a lot of rain. And I personally am a summer girl. So when it gets to be fall, when it gets to be cold and dark outside, the eventual promise of summer really, really, just sustains me through these dark months. And when I think about summer, I like to think about one of my favorite activities, going to the beach and doing some spearfishing with my harpoon. Okay. I'm not really one for spearfishing, but you get the idea. You're taking those two words, my words were eventual and harpoon, and you're taking them and you're trying to blend them together. Going back to the PowerPoint for you for just a second. Let's see if I can find it. I think that's it. Nope, I lost it. Oh, actually, it might be. Bear with me, guys. There it is. So going back to my PowerPoint just for a second so you can see it. You're telling a story. You're connecting two words by telling a story. So my challenge to you, if you want to practice, you can practice with with this random generator. It's not something that you have to do, but it's something that is an option to you if you want to do it. Or quite honestly, you can go back to your speech. You can go back to the outline and you can look at, this word that was a keyword in this section and that word that's a keyword in that section and do the same thing. Try to tell a story, try to blend from this word to this word. And so you're connecting the dots. If we go back to that Titanic example for a second, maybe the dot you're connecting is talking about the structure of the ship and then the tragedy that's going to happen. All right. For example, if we were talking about the Titanic, you might say, the Titanic was such an expertly crafted ship that it came as a complete shock when tragedy struck and the Titanic sank. All right. In that case, I was thinking about, again, structure and tragedy, and I connected those two words together. It's going to take a little practice. It's not the easiest thing. I don't expect that your first transition is going to be your perfect transition, but this is all food for thought for you as you are working on your speeches. All right, my friends. So good luck. As you submit your outlines for the speeches, I will be reading them. I will be giving you lots and lots of feedback, and I will be sending it back to you as soon as possible. I'm really excited to start looking at your outlines, and I will talk to you soon.